Hey, it's Dan. I hope you're having a good day. I want to show you something I was showing my grandsons the other day. So I wanted to talk to them. They're seventh and sixth grade between them. One's going to be in the seventh grade, one's going to be in the sixth grade. And so they've been homeschooled. So, obviously the curriculum's not exactly the same as, say, the public schools. So I kind of wanted to see where they were on decimals and percents and fractions. So I brought up a couple of problems with them. And of course, I'm not going to show you everything I showed them, but I was just talking about like the meaning of percent in general. And I said, hey, what about 75%? Think about that for a minute. And I said, how would you write that as a fraction? They thought about it. They weren't entirely sure. Obviously, they've had a couple of months off from school, so I'm not trying to make them feel bad, but they just weren't entirely sure, which is okay. It's the reason I brought it up. And so I was explaining to them that this symbol percent means per 100, and so just by definition, 75% means 75 over 100. What's really cool is that my grandson Abraham, the younger one, said, well, that's what this 100 is. There's the one and there's the two zeros. And I thought, wow, that's not entirely where that comes from. Obviously, that's not where it comes from at all. But if it helps your memory, that's awesome. It really is pretty cool. So I think I'm going to be using it. In fact, I'm showing you right now. So 75% means 75 out of 100, and that 100 is right here. There's your one and there's your two zeros. So percent means per 100. And of course, then you have to reduce. And so we were talking about reducing. When you're reducing something like 75 over 100, you're trying to think, what's the biggest number that goes into 75 and 100? Of course, 25 is that number. So 25 goes into 75 three times, and it goes into 100 four times. So 75% is 3/4, because 25 goes into 75 three times, and 25 goes into 100 four times. When you're reducing fractions, and this is something that 5th, 6th, 7th grade, and really all the way through high school, it's important. And the better you know your multiplication tables, the better you're going to be able to reduce fractions. And people always expect you to put your answers in simplest form. So the thing I think you should be hammering away with from about 3rd grade on with math students is that you master your multiplication tables, because it's going to affect everything. So if you're poor at multiplication and knowing your multiplication facts, that's going to affect you from here on out. So master that and do it over and over again. So I'm going to be working with the grandsons a little bit this year. We'll be doing tons of making sure their multiplication facts are down cold, and we'll be dealing with percents, fractions, decimals, that sort of thing. So 75% means 75 out of 100. As a decimal, that would be 0.75, because this is the tenths and that's the hundredths place. So 0.75 is 75 out of 100. 0.75 is 75%. It's also 3/4. Now, one other thing before I let you go, let me grab my eraser here. One other thing before I let you go is I want to show you something that I think is very important, and it's a little bit of a shortcut in terms of reducing fractions. Most of you, if you're relatively old, you already know it, but so this is for the younger students for sure. One shortcut in reducing fractions is, let's say you have something like 300 over 400, and you're trying to reduce that. 300 over 400. You see these zeros, you can almost treat it like you're canceling those zeros and you're canceling this zero, so that's 3/4. Now, you're not really just canceling those zeros. It's a shortcut way of dividing by 10, or since we have two zeros here, we're actually dividing by 100 in each one. So we're saying 100 goes into 300 three times, and 100 goes into 400 four times. So if you had 70 over 80, you could cancel those zeros. That's a shortcut in terms of reducing. So if a number ends in 0, you know automatically it's divisible by 10. And that's a shortcut, brainstorming what to divide by. So you can cancel out those digits. Now you can't do that if it ends in a 5 or a 3 or some other number, but you can do that when something ends in 0 in terms of a quick way to cancel. And you can even do it when you have 2 zeros or 3 zeros or that sort of thing on top and bottom. It's a quick way of canceling and a quick way of reducing fractions. Hey, you have a good one.